morning, everybody. Good crack of noon to our friends on the East Coast. I am Todd Obert, President and CEO of Productive Corporation. Joined here alongside me is Mr. Pete Greco, our VP of Sales and Technology. Today we're going to talk about narrowing the gaps in your environment in an attempt to improve your security, right? Even though we have a lot of stuff deployed across our environments, there is a lot of stuff to consider, and there are always going to be some gaps. The goal would be to keep those gaps as small as possible and kind of really balance security and effort to have the best posture that we can, have relative to the security and processes we have in place. So with that, I am going to show you our agenda. The first thing we do on these is we meet productive in 1 minute. Then we get right into the content. We will talk about that. Pete is going to be driving it today, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. In fact, I'm ready for my mind to be blown. But before my mind is completely blown, we will meet productive in 1 minute. So you ask, who is Productive Corporation? Well, Productive provides security solutions for mid-sized companies. We have specialized expertise so that you don't have to find the World Wide Web all by yourself. We also implement, test, and optimize all the products we sell. We do everything from security assessments, Active Directory security, configuration assistance, and UTM services. We also produce a lot of third-party content. We do that at productivecorp.com/content as well as our YouTube channel. The bottom line is we have the resources to help you. Whether it's implementation, assessment, licensing, or optimization services, we are here to help. And one of the ways that we help is by putting on these educational webinars. If you joined us at the top of the show, Pete Greco, our VP of Sales and Technology, will be talking to us today. Pete has been in the tech business for over 20 years and has been in the security business for the last 17. He knows, he has seen thousands and thousands of security environments and has helped almost that many customers improve their security posture. So he's seen the good, the bad, the ugly. Please welcome the Clint Eastwood of IT security, Pete Greco. Pete?
All right. Thanks so much. I will admit I'm a little unprepared. I thought we were talking about the Gap store, not security gaps. So I've got a whole different set of slides. Just kidding, everybody.
Is that, yeah. Well, no, it's great because you could have a pair of khakis and then you could dress that up with a golf shirt.
And I thought incident response was, what if you spilled some spaghetti on your shirt? What will you do?
Yeah, what is one to do?
Exactly. All right, let me get some control here, TL. There we go. All right. We will keep this bad boy rolling and talk a little bit about the difficulties that everybody is facing. Gaps exist, and as Todd said, gaps will probably always exist, partially because we're continuing to innovate how we're using technology, how we're leveraging data and accessing data. We have end users who are continuously finding new gadgets out on the marketplace that they want to use at work, right? And I'm probably the worst one of doing said activities. We're also trying to continually make improvements, and we're bringing in new things that we're mixing in with our old things, and it's making it challenging sometimes to know where to look, where to pay attention, how to monitor everything. What have we patched? What have we secured? What's wide open? Who's left? Who still has access? All kinds of fun stuff that we got to try and figure out how to stay on top of. So those gaps are there, right? One of the easiest things to do to block vulnerabilities and attacks is simply remove the vulnerability, and the easiest way to do that is by patching. See way too many studies, though, saying that nobody is patching quick enough or doing full patching or patching all of their machines or patching the entire environment. and have read some fun articles, indicating that if you're not fully patched, stop everything and patch immediately. Lots of different non-Microsoft stuff to be worried about. This is just one of the many, many charts available on the internet, showcasing how Windows and Office are not the only things to worry about. We definitely see a key vulnerability in Internet Explorer. But if you look at the next three, they're all Flash related. Then we've got a Silverlight. Then we've got another Flash related, right? Then a Windows, and then Flash, i.e. Flash. Pretty big common theme. Adobe is the #1 exploited publisher as of 2016, not just in Flash, but in Reader and some of the other products that they have. Right, and those are everywhere. So we got to figure out how to get that non-Microsoft stuff in addition to the Microsoft stuff. And then the next bastion is how do we get beyond just the workstations, laptops, servers? Right now we got to start thinking about mobile devices like tablets and phones. Unpatched or unupdated versions of those are getting compromised, so that you can get root access and be able to do all kinds of fun stuff as far as side-loading apps and this kind of stuff. And that's going to cause headaches in the environment. One of the easiest things to do to solve that today: put in MDM and don't allow unpatched devices onto the network. That puts the user in control of adding that patch if they want to get access to the data. So getting serious about patching for sure, super important. Securing the gateway and making sure that your firewall is up to date. I think a lot of folks that I talk to, right, are taking advantage of IPS and antivirus at the gateway, and so that is awesome. Right, a lot of folks who are running UTMs and maybe even some next-gen firewalls have access to features like application control and web scanning. May or may not have the opportunity to add on a sandbox. A lot of the key vendors that we work with have sandboxing capabilities. We don't see nearly enough folks getting those implemented and going. And some of the reason for that is not knowing how to get it rolling, or not having the time to be able to get it rolling. And that's where we can come into play, or another trusted vendor can come into play to help you get those going. That really adds a lot of additional layers just at the gateway, right? And if you're doing on-prem Exchange, anti-spam on the firewall is a capability. Doing that in the cloud, obviously a capability. Standalone appliance, a way to go, right? And adding those layers helps block a lot of bad traffic, helps you identify traffic that's originating from inside the environment that other layers of protection are not helping you see. And so getting serious about some of these additional features that you potentially already own can really go a long way in upping that gateway protection. And again, we'd love to help you out with that. Obviously, the endpoint and the end user is critical. And one of the ways that I'm kind of trying to change my conversation with clients is really thinking a little bit more about the end user as opposed to the endpoint, and thinking about all the things that they come into contact with. It's their laptop or workstation, plus potentially a machine at home. You know, what I used to do in the old days is I would go home and work on my workstation at home. I would use what did we used to use, Todd, before we had VPN access? Go to my PC, is that right?
Yeah, it was either Go to my PC, or it might have been End-to-End Hamster. I think we had that allowed that those
exactly.
hamsters sent the data on the wheel as they were spinning.
And we had the backup hamster, so that if you had to really work a lot of hours, you could rotate them in and out.
Those hamsters get tired. Yeah, you are right. Exactly. It was Go to my PC.
So a machine at home, right, that's connecting into the environment and accessing data. Now I'm taking my laptop, right, home with me at night. I've got a mobile phone. I've got more than one tablet. I actually have more than one phone where I'm accessing corporate data. So doing a lot of stuff. And I like to consider myself a power user, but I talk to a lot of our clients who have users just like me, using lots of ways to access the environment and access the data. So how do we up the protection there, especially when these folks are going to, Starbucks or some other place where they've got free Wi-Fi? They have no idea if they're getting on a legitimate Wi-Fi, a secured Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi that's actually spoofed or put on by some kind of black hat, right? So how do we take that stuff to the next level? I guarantee probably everybody on this call is running antivirus and host-based intrusion prevention, right? And that's good stuff. But what are we doing for some of the new ransomware attacks? And if you're up to date with a modern product, you're probably able to block old versions of CryptoLocker, CryptoWall, maybe some of the original servers that are floating around. But what about the fileless ransomware? What about the fileless malware that's circulating? Nothing is getting read or written from disk, so how are you able to detect it with that traditional scanning? You can't, right? Application control, in absence of being able to get automated patches out, application control goes a long way in suppressing applications that you don't know about, you can't easily patch, that don't help your business in any way, right? Locking down those USB ports. Are you using them? Do you need them? Does everybody in the organization need them? If not, get them locked down. You can start whitelisting USBs for the key users that need them. Make sure that those are encrypted so that data is not leaking off, or that they're not getting accessed by somebody that shouldn't be accessing them. And then the new thing that just about everybody is talking about now, machine learning, right? Trying to understand what's the normal usage of this machine. What does it normally look like? When do I see something that doesn't fit into those parameters, and be able to detect that, or block it, or stop it, or alert, or do whatever, right? So that's how those endpoints are going to come up to the next level. And the thing that we don't have on here, right, that I could argue could be added is end user education. They're a part of that endpoint, right? You don't have any workstations, or I shouldn't say you don't have any, but you probably don't have many workstations that don't have a human tied to them. So how do we get their knowledge up to the next level? You know, phishing training is a great way to go as a starter, to just start getting their minds open to what's going on. Go ahead. Read a pretty disturbing article on Mashable last night that my wife forwarded to me that was kind of indicating that home users don't really need to worry about security because the hackers are only after businesses, right? And so the challenge there is the end users, or the home users, are causing businesses a lot of problems because they don't update their products. They don't know when they're not running something. They don't know when something's not working, and they're joining the massive amounts of botnets that are out there that are then being used to attack the rest of us that are trying to keep our environments afloat. Getting visibility with SIM. A lot is happening in the network that is hard to see, right? And Todd threw up a great graphic here with the event viewer. Navigating through here and trying to figure out that you're missing a log that should be there that's assigned, you can't do it, right? Figuring out where are the errors in this list is slow and time consuming. And then once you find them, you got to go figure out what they mean, right? Trying to piece together logs from different systems to put together that an event is happening is slow and time consuming to do. The event will be long over by the time you identify it. So how do we find out when accounts that have been disabled are getting enabled? How are we finding out when privileges are getting escalated, when users are accessing machines that they typically don't access, right? SIM is going to show that stuff. And for a lot of organizations, SIM is a bare component to their compliance requirements. A lot of clients of ours are finding out now that even though they don't have a compliance requirement, many of their customers do, and they're starting to require them to adhere to to compliance regulation. So getting ahead of the game is going to help you be competitive in the marketplace, but it's also going to help you really get an additional level of security and give you some neat features that you're not going to see in your firewall product or in your endpoint product, like event correlation, like threat hunting, which the base component of threat hunting is really scanning machines and looking for executables and DLLs that have not launched, right? So if you get ransomware that's on a time delay, threat hunting is the kind of thing that can help you identify, hey, we've got a program here that is never run. It's not digitally signed, so we know that this isn't Microsoft Access that got installed as part of, you know, the Office suite that this end user doesn't need to use. I think I have access on my box that probably has never been launched, or if it has, only by accident, right? So it's going to recognize, well, that's digitally signed by Microsoft, that's legit. But what about these other files that we have no idea what they are? Is this an issue? Let's get some eyeballs on it so we can prevent something happening proactively, right? The other nice thing about SIEM is you can also use it operationally. So it's not just looking for threats and not just looking for, you know, ransomware attacks and user bad behavior and this kind of stuff. It can also show you a lot of operational stuff as far as running out of disk space, a fan is dead, or whatever you might have going on. So you can really get multiple folks in your organization leveraging this one piece to help them do their individual jobs. So it's a great tool to look at. And if you feel like, hey man, I love what you're saying, but I don't have the time to do that stuff, let's talk co-manage, where we can help you be on top of this stuff and prevent you from having to add any headcount or get dedicated training or whatever. Right? Network vulnerability scan. This is actually the scanner, the exact scanner we use. We scan our employees' foreheads every day when they come in to make sure it's really them. Just kidding, everybody. We're not quite at that level yet, but we're working on it. Right? So figuring out what's going on over the wire that's coming through the switches, that's come past the firewall, that's in between the web filter and the end user. Right? And this is a key place that is a great place for attackers to exploit, because a lot of folks have no visibility on what's going on with the switches, can't see if an attack is coming in through a USB port on a printer, or maybe even see that they have USB ports on their printers. Right? So a great way to find out what's out there, what's plugged in that maybe you didn't know about. And in my environment, you know, we don't have a ton of machines, but fairly often we'll see something pop up where I'll be like, ooh, wait a minute, what is that? And it might be a machine that we've had, but it's gotten renamed after a rebuild, right? But it's an opportunity to go and figure out, okay, what is it? Where did it come from? Who threw it up? Is it fully patched? Is it something that should be on the network, or something that should be gotten rid of? And you have some other ways where you might identify some of this stuff, but to get that full picture, you need to be leveraging a SIEM or some kind of vulnerability scanner, like a Tenable or a Qualys or one of the Rapid7, one of these kinds of programs to help you see what's going on. That's also going to help you see missing patches. You know, a lot of the patch products are only looking for Windows patches. Maybe they're also looking for Mac patches. Might be a few products out there that are looking for Linux patches, but I haven't seen really anything that's looking for firmware updates for, you know, switches and routers and other kinds of gear that exists on the network. So a great way to get some additional visibility and be able to do some remediation automatically, right? So, and that's what really gets you to the next level, is you know, preventing stuff from happening and then being able to remediate quicker. And I kind of don't like when I hear the comments of, you know, stuff's going to get through, so all you can do is remediate. I think there's a lot that can be done with prevention. You know, if you block access to stuff that doesn't help your business, that's a great first response to being proactive. Train your end users so they can identify those bad emails or the bulk of those bad emails more easily, so that they don't bring something in. That's a great proactive move. Remove the vulnerabilities that some of these rootkits and exploit kits and initial attacks want to leverage to be able to get a backdoor dropper or some kind of downloader in there. Right? That's all good proactive stuff. And then it is time to respond. So the sooner you can see indicators of compromise, the sooner you can start responding, the more you can minimize or negate the impact of an attack, right? So I think prevention is absolutely key. Remediation is key as well, and we really need to be doing both. And proactivity really. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and on the prevention side, I mean, there's new stuff coming out, so it can't just be wait to remediate it. Otherwise, when you get infected with ransomware, extremely painful to try to remediate it unless you have the right tools.
Exactly. We heard a story earlier in the week about an organization that had gotten about 150 phishing emails. 149 of them had gotten blocked by their anti-spam tool. One got through. It was clicked on. It downloaded ransomware, which the end user continued to work through. So that thing just ran rampant on their machine and on the file servers. It spread to a couple of other servers. They were able to finally kill it. They went to their backups and restored about 90% right off the bat. So data recovery in action, which is a key point of it. And they got about 99% of the data back, and they figured out kind of that 1% probably was not that big of a deal, but it took them a week to do that, right? So even though they were able to get back in action, they had to spend a week to get there. And so while that's going on, nothing else is getting done. You're getting behind all over the place. You're suffering downtime, and I'm sure the headaches were enormous. So let's get past that kind of thing and be able to respond much quicker. And then, of course, the thing that we're not even talking about here is, what about the cloud? Do you have any cloud apps that you're using? Is your CRM in the cloud? Are you backing up to the cloud? What are you doing, or what are you thinking about for cloud authorized security broker space, or as I like to call it, rock the Casbah, right? Let's get there. I didn't pull that off well.
That's not. I'm like, that is a wonderful Clash reference.
Yeah, so lots of great info out there. Here's some of the places where we get information from and learn a lot about security and attacks and stuff that's going on, so that we can wrap our heads around how to advise you and how to help you. And it's ever changing. You know, we were talking the other day about how our conversations and how our knowledge level has changed from 2001, 2002, when we said AV, we were really just talking about antivirus, not even anti-spyware, right? That was a whole separate product. And we certainly weren't talking about web content filtering and a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now. Host-based intrusion prevention, you know, was a couple grand a server and really required pro services to get it going. So by the time you mix in another couple of grand there, got to be a pretty critical server to make that protection worthwhile. This stuff has really come down in price. It's widespread, but now we got a whole new set of threats and vulnerabilities that we got to worry about. And we got to keep learning and keep pushing the envelope on adding those layers into the environment. And obviously that's something that we would love to help you all with. So we hope you'll engage your productive representative and let us know if we can consult with you, if we can help you, if we can give you some advice, if we can help you configure the products that you've already acquired from us to make sure that you're at the forefront of securing your environment.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pete. I mean, yeah, and it's an ongoing thing, right? I mean, just like Pete talked about, you know, back in the day, it was just AV. It is so much more now, and the threats have become so much more complex. You know, we just had sat in on a deal where a guy was talking about the verticalization of the hackers and how they're just like legit businesses are, you know, focusing on certain niches, certain, you know, small, mid-sized businesses, you know, mid-sized financial firms or firms that provide services to larger companies. I mean, it's all over the place, and so everybody has a risk profile, and it's incumbent upon us and you guys to make sure you're doing the right things to minimize the exposure.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad you threw that out, Todd, because I wish I would have covered some of the information that was in the recent Verizon report they're really saying manufacturing is under attack, right? And I think part of the thing that we need to understand is what do the hackers want from our business, from your business, from each individual business? I think a lot of folks feel like, hey, I'm not storing credit card data, right? We don't store credit card data either. We take credit cards, but we don't store anything here. We have a processor that we use. It's up to them to do it. And so if you just start thinking about, well, I don't have socials, I don't have credit cards, so who cares? Well, I still have a lot of data that I want to have integrity, right? I want my database of all of our clients to be accurate, right? And I certainly don't want it getting stolen by some foreign entity who now is going to use our customer list to try and sell maybe ill-gotten products, or they're just going to sell that list to all kinds of startup businesses coming out of the Middle East or out of Asia or wherever they might be, right? That's going to be an impact to us. We don't want our customers to suffer an impact because something happened to us. If you have plans, if you have designs, if you have proprietary information, right, that stuff can be sold to somebody. And so everybody has something that they can be targeted for. And so figuring out what is that information, right, and how am I going to protect it? How is it getting used? And it can even be as little as, I don't want my employees taking our price books and going over to our competitor and then using that information to beat us in the marketplace. Right? So you got to protect the house, and you got to figure out, what does your house look like? Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Pete, for sharing the wisdom. We really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who took the time to attend today. We know that you guys are very, very busy, and you spent 30 minutes with us, so I truly appreciate it. As Pete mentioned, somebody from the Productive team will be reaching out. This is a great jumping off point to have a discussion and talk about where you're at, what you're thinking about, and how we can help. So really hope that you guys have that conversation. In the meantime, I am Todd Obert, along with Pete Greco, wishing you a fantastic balance of your day and week, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.